Hello there, and welcome. Well, yesterday I read to you the beautiful, unusual, amazing work of Emily Dickinson. And as one of the great innovators of American poetry, she almost can't be matched. She's that innovative and wonderful, and very in many ways very disciplined and stark as well. She's such an important poet that lots and lots of biographies and things have been written about her, and of course many of them have played up the crazy lady of Amherst quality of her life. I think that was mostly done to market books, not really a fair representation of a woman who was essentially an artist, and though quirky, not far outside the realm of what someone might be who devoted their lives to the art of poetry. It's a challenging art form. It's not easy on people, and it requires a lot of soul. And I truly do believe that Dickinson, in many of her poems, was writing prayers. And in fact, the poem that I shared with you is in a prayer form. Many of her poems were written with a prayer form in mind, an old hymn form that were meant to be sung. Some years back in the 20th century, a certain teacher noticed that you could sing a lot of Emily Dickinson's poems, and you could sing them to the tune of A Yellow Rose of Texas. And that's not an accident. It just so happens that The Yellow Rose of Texas is written in a hymn form. So, to give you a little taste of what that might sound like, let's take yesterday's poem, A Narrow Fellow, and try it. A narrow fellow in the grass occasionally rides. You may have met him, did you not? His note is sudden is. The grass divides us with the comb. Okay, you get the idea. Obviously, A Yellow Rose of Texas, that song, is written in the same form as these old puritanical hymn forms. So I want to give you the form and make you the suggestion of trying to write a poem, if you can, in that form. Now, if you're not a poet by nature, that's fine. I think even non-poets should occasionally try to write a poem or two, if for no other reason than to stretch your word muscles. Okay? So, I'm going to use a little poetry language here for a minute, but I think I can make it easy enough to where if you're not really familiar with poetic language, it'll make sense. So, the hymn form has what's called an iambic rhythm. The first and third lines of each stanza are 8 syllables long. The second and fourth lines of each stanza are 6 syllables long. And the syllables are arranged with a weak syllable followed by a strong syllable. Every 2 syllables are weak strong. So you have that pattern to follow. The rhyming pattern is A, B, C, B. So that means the second and fourth lines rhyme. The first and third lines do not. Now you can actually do it all sorts of ways. If you decide to fully rhyme, like have the first and third and second and fourth lines rhyme, that's fine. That's called a quatrain, and that one is called ABAB. You can have the second and fourth lines rhyme and not have the first and third line rhyme. That's what I've already described. But the rhyming is nice too. So having rhythm and rhyme in a poem is very much in the tradition of most poetic fields. Now, some poetries and some languages focus on different rhythms, or they focus on different sound techniques. As opposed to rhyming, they might alliterate. In other words, have several words in a row have the same initial sound, like Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. That's an alliteration. Okay? So all of those things are available to you. The other thing that Dickinson did, she liked to write about the natural world. And oftentimes she brought the metaphysical or the spiritual into a relationship with the physical. She did this through metaphors, she did it through similes, a metaphor, a comparison that doesn't use like or as, or to talk of one thing in terms of another. Whereas a simile is to use a comparison that uses like or as. All of those things were available to her and she used them. But the big thing that I think she did was her poetry was devotional. Many people knew about her poetic endeavors. She gave poems sometimes as gifts. And there were publishers who were interested in putting out her work. So why didn't she publish it in her lifetime? Simple. Since her poems were of a prayerful nature, her main audience wasn't you, wasn't me, wasn't even herself. Her audience was her God. And I think she knew that if she were ever to concentrate on communicating with someone other than God, the incredible power and vulnerability that showed up in her poetry would have been corrupted by thinking about a different audience. Although, as I said, she did give poems as gifts. She's a good one to think about, too, when you're feeling like you don't fit in with the world. One thing about her, she didn't fit in with the world, and she embraced that. Sometimes it's good for a writer to put the world at a distance for a little while and to reflect on it. The world can be a cunning and cruel place, and a poet needs the room to find peace, contentment, joy, and wisdom. And those come from meditating on greater things than local politics. Well, I hope you try an Emily Dickinson poem. Try for 16 lines. See if you can get 4 fours out. And try to enjoy it a little bit, at least. That's it for today. I hope you have a glorious rest of the day, and I hope you see me soon, you gorgeous people.